Life is a lot like beekeeping. Beekeeping isn't easy, and at times can be downright tough. Sometimes you feel like you're on an island, that you're not making a difference, and that you're on your own. But just remember, the darkest hour is just before dawn. There are those out there shining a light, being the change, and being a lighthouse. You're not alone. There's an incredible community of folks who want to help, who want to lift you up, and want to see you do well. Like the honeybee is to the hive, we're better together. With hard work, if we work together, and with a little help from above, all things are possible. It's not just about keeping bees. It's about being our brother's keeper. Be the lighthouse.
Well, look at that.
Hey, man.
What is happening? We could run wild right now because
we're here by ourselves. Yeah.
He's not here. You do whatever.
Not yet.
Everybody, so if you've just joined, yes, we're missing Greg Burns. Greg is standing outside of his shop right now. Don't burn the channel down.
I don't know. Maybe we should.
Exactly.
We could have all kinds of fun.
We can do whatever we want. You know,
we got what, 15 minutes?
Exactly. 15 minutes to just, do whatever we want.
Yeah.
The whole channel is going to lose its monetization. Everything. It's all going to burn.
Well, it'll be your fault with me on here. That's highly unlikely, but
right.
You're the wild and crazy one, Brian.
No, I'm not. Greg will be on shortly. So for those that don't know, he locked himself out of the shop. So he's standing there, probably watching the bees, or I know he's probably looking over to his left and he's admiring the top bar hive that now has another colony in it. So, he was losing sleep over that. We both know that, but no, he'll be on shortly. So, and the guest that we have coming on tonight as well, he will be on probably in about another 15 minutes or so also. So he runs a tight schedule, and actually had ball practice with one of his sons. So
Man, don't we all run a tight schedule? It's been crazy.
yeah. But Bruce, what's been going on down your way? I know I saw pictures of like a semi truck load of, and they're headed home now. Awesome, Jake. We'll see you in a little bit, buddy. I saw like a trailer load of honey.
Well, I was about to say a semi truck is a bit of an exaggeration. It's like a 15-foot utility or 16-foot utility trailer. But we harvested honey this past weekend. We like I had a young man that lives here close by named Jeremy Hartzog, and he may be on here tonight. He comments quite often in the comments, and he was a great help. He helped me set the hives up the previous week, and then it was real easy to pull them off. And I'm trying to work through a video on that, but man, I've been so busy. I've bottled honey nonstop since we harvested. I had a lot of orders outstanding from the various stores that I sell to, and so but that's kind of what we did. We pulled the honey on Friday, and I ended up with I think 63 boxes, something like that. And then Rusty, my friend, had 26 boxes. So basically we'll just say we had 60 boxes between us. No, hold on. No, not 26 boxes. He had 47 boxes. And so we had over 100 boxes to harvest. And I ended up with 34 buckets of honey, and Rusty ended up with 26 buckets, I believe. And so 60 buckets of honey, 5-gallon buckets. We did it in a day. Now we've adjusted our system. I purchased I think it's called a Silver Queen or a Queen Line, the Cowan uncapper. Mm-hmm. It's old. It's it's probably harvested. I think some commercial guys have used it in the past. Who knows how many thousands of frames have gone through that thing? Just tens of thousands of frames probably over the years, and it took us a little while to get used to it. Rusty is one of those guys that can fix anything. Mm-hmm. And so he got it working, and it really hammers out the frames of honey. But we did find some bottlenecks. The spring honey is extremely thick, and it wasn't really a hot day, so the honey wasn't really super warm. And so the biggest problem we had was getting it filtered in the bucket, and in the buckets that slowed us down. But we got it figured out, and it took us, I think we were 14 hours in the extraction process, and then of course clean up after that. So I think we started about 8 o'clock and got done about 10 p.m.
A question for you: when you're filtering, so you're extracting it, and then when you filter it, what type of filter do you use going into the bucket?
Well, what we did, we've historically used paint filters. You just get them at Lowe's, 5-gallon paint filters. We've done in the past is we put them through a metal strainer, like a spaghetti strainer thing. I'm not sure what they're called.
Yeah.
Into a bucket with a filter, and then so that gets the big stuff, and we have someone sitting there with a spatula kind of stirring that.
Oh, okay.
Extractor, and then we pull it off to the side, and then we pull the filter out, and the honey theoretically goes into the bucket. With the thick honey, that doesn't work that well. Our plan this time was Rusty had rigged up his 50-gallon bottling tank. It's about 50 gallons, and he had rigged it up to where you could set a bucket down the top of it, and the bucket had holes in it. We were going to put the paint filter in there and just pour the buckets in. Well, it didn't work. It didn't drain very fast at all. So they drilled bigger holes. It still didn't work very well. And then he came up with a way to filter it where he hung the filter through there, and he attached it to wire, just nothing down below, and it still didn't drain very fast. And so we ended up doing the old-fashioned way. That was where the bottleneck was. So we're trying to figure out a solution with that. Of course, the commercial guys, they use the clarifiers, they pump it into settling tanks, they do all this stuff, but we just don't have that kind of setup, and we're not at that level yet.
Yeah.
So we're gonna figure something out. He actually ordered one of those. What is it called? A hops strainer, or it's like
a spider,
whatever it's called. And so he's going to rig that up in a way to hang it in there. And I think he's going to go with a larger micron, like maybe a 600 micron, which hope it'll flow through there better. In our summer honey, it's hot, first of all, in the summertime. And second of all, it usually is a little bit thinner. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think there's any issues with this honey having too much water in it because it is thick.
Yeah.
Or at least it took forever to get it strained. But we got it done, and it's beautiful. The honey is almost clear. It's like a super, super light honey. It's got a little bit of yellow tint to it, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it tastes really good. It's actually my favorite Southern honey. So we anyway, but that's kind of our story. And I've been bottling. I had a bunch of outstanding orders from businesses that I sell at, and I've just, of course, I got all their orders, and man, they wanted a lot, and so I took 200 of my pint squeeze bottles out to Appleton Farms. They've already sold 50 of them. We took them out there Monday. And my wife took them out there, and so he's like, "We need more." And then I've got a bunch of other stores that I'm just kind of trying to get it bottled up. And some of them want the glass bottles, the mouth bottles, which is more of a process because I waxed it. So I've been, my bottling tank is a 16-gallon bottling tank. So I dumped 3 buckets in there, and I let it heat up and warm up, basically for a day. And then I just bottle the whole thing up, and I've just been going and going and going. And every spare minute I've been bottling honey. And after we get off the chat tonight, I'll probably go bottle some more honey. So
you need that bottling, the speed fill.
Yeah, it's not so much the speed as much as it's the it's just it's limited capacity. It's 15.
Yeah.
I can only put 3 buckets in at a time, and so I probably need bigger everything. I'm in the process today of ordering a 32 frame extractor from John. And I think I'm going to retire my 20 frame Maxon, and Rusty has a 30 frame, and that's to be a 32 frame. So that's coming. Speaking of that, we might as well bring this up, Brian, in a couple of weeks. We're going to have I think we're going to title I haven't decided exactly on a title yet, but title it basically, we're going to talk about beekeeping products. And as part of that, we're going to talk about some different things, and there are going to be some really nice giveaways. One of which is going to be one of John's extractors. Is going to be, I think it's over a $900 value that he's agreed to. We're going to give away for that. That's just one of the several things we're going to give away that night. So anyone who's tuning in early, try and set that night aside. And we're going to have, I think Rob's talked about how he wants to give something away, and also I think Greg maybe give something away. We have some different people. Simple Comb has agreed they want to give away one of their kits with the frames and the actual little cartridges and Simple Comb.
What are we giving away this stuff for, though? You haven't said.
Well, you can talk about that. That's not my. There's been a landmark on my channel.
Exactly.
It's a significant landmark.
25,000 subscribers.
I mean, nice.
That's
that's
awesome.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway,
that's
awesome. Enough about me, Brian. How about you, man? What's going on up in Ohio up there?
Oh, man. Well, I think last week when we spoke, I had gotten my supers on all the colonies. We have had so much rain that I literally have not had a chance to go back over. Today's the first day that it hasn't rained in the evening. And I was thinking about going over and checking boxes, and I'm just like, I didn't even want to mess with it. I thought if I give it another day, Chris Medeiros, that is actually funny, giving away a hex hive. Sure. But if I give it another day, tomorrow's going to be fine. So I'll go and check how the supers are doing. I still have yet to shake out that laying worker colony that I have. It's just when I found that, it literally started raining minutes after I found it. So it was like, I didn't want to have that thing all torn apart and having them bees just chew me up. So, but yeah, the weather up here has been just pretty ridiculous. So April, I know we had over twice the amount of precipitation that we normally get. And in May, I think by like May 10th or something like that, we had already met what our average precipitation for the month is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it's everything is wet. So, but I mean, hopefully things are okay. The splits, when I checked them, they were doing fine when I checked them last. I just have a little bit of work to do equalizing and things will be good there. So get some other supers on. I think there's one of my splits that I made that I actually pulled some brood frames from that insane queen that I got in that package that was laying up the sheets of brood. I moved over a couple frames of brood to a split that I did to boost them. So I'm going to end up probably having to super a split. But things are good. I mean, we're still early. It's May 15th. So, it's good. I think I'm content for where we're sitting at. So
That's
look at
good.
this. I've heard two pops here.
Two
So
pops. What do you mean?
one is we've got Greg Burns here. So
Okay.
I don't know if he's ready. Susie had to let him in. He probably
Yeah,
did
it's
something
funny.
wrong today. So she locked him out and said, "You need to sit out there a little bit, mister, and think about what you did." And, when you come up with a good answer, I'll let you back in. So
Hey, I'm gonna do something here, see if it works. I'm gonna see if it
okay.
sounds any different.
Okay.
Any difference? Can you still hear me good? Better.
You breaking up a hair.
How about now? Is that better?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I just can't hear in my headphones very well. So as long
That's
as you can hear me loud and clear, if anybody is having any issues hearing what I'm saying, if it's not clear, just let me know. But otherwise, I'm just gonna roll with it.
yeah.
For some reason, normally it comes in my headphones really well, and I can't. I can hear you, but I sound muffled, so it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah. I think Greg's going to join.
He better be. It's on his channel.
Yeah. No, he's down there. So here,
While we're waiting, I guess we could recognize some of the folks in the comment section here. I haven't really been scrolling through much. I've been trying to get my mic working right. We got a lot of the regulars in here, but I'm sure there's some folks we don't recognize. We appreciate everyone for being on here.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of people in here.
There sure are.
DC, Redfish, Jarrett, what's up, buddy? Russell, Rob.
Got Grayson.
Knox. Yeah, Grayson, very first one. So
James, we got Pat.
A lot of people.
Wow.
Lisa's here.
We got Lisa. Yeah, Lisa. Tennessee Tim. We got Tim on here. We got Steve.
Yeah.
Steve and Jane.
Awesome.
We got Chris Medeiros, of course, is on here. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The Morris Homestead. Oh, Greg commented, but he's still trying to get on.
Yeah, he's down in there. I don't know if he wants me to pop him up or. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Well, hey, a lot of our folks here are big homesteaders, farmers, beekeepers, you name it. Something I learned a long time ago when we first got started. The first tractor that we ever got, we traded an old four-wheeler for. It was a 1965 John Deere 3020. And when we bought it, the headlights didn't work. And I thought, that's kind of weird. How come the headlights don't work? And Farmer Mike said, well, I'm not allowed to have headlights because if I have headlights, I can work late and I can work dark and I can work through the night. And I'm not allowed to do that. Well, I'm seeing the wisdom in that because we are pushing it here, working late last night, moving bees in the dark, in the rain, today doing the same thing. And I make it back. I've got 10 minutes to spare. I go to get in the door and Jake's already left for the day and he locked up the shop. And I said, oh no, now what do I do? All I've got is the Kubota key. Can't drive home and on the skid steer. So anyways, I want to apologize for being late tonight. We have a great guest on here. Like I said, a lot of folks are into homesteading, farming, beekeeping seems to be one of those things that are tied into so many aspects and facets of the homestead life that you can't sometimes have one without the other. Very, very few beekeepers do I know just keep bees. It's always something else, whether it's rabbits or chickens or pigs or cows or you name it. Tonight we've got a special guest on, and not only are they beekeepers, but they get into some really cool things that are way outside of even what some homesteaders do on the homestead. And I'm looking forward to getting to know them a little bit better. A lot of their family and our family storylines kind of cruise or are parallel. when there was a point in time where we made the decision to get out to a piece of land. Let's start over. Let's get back to the roots. Let's bring the kids along. And then next thing you know, you're X amount of years down that journey. And it's fun to meet and visit with folks who are doing something similar and have had success doing it. So tonight, it's absolutely an honor to bring on Jake and Uriah from White House on the Hill. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having
Welcome.
us on. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nice to see you, Jake. I'm glad you and Brian connected, and you were gracious enough to spend some time with us tonight. Jake, I see you've got the farm boss, Uriah, with you tonight.
That's right. Yep, he helps me with all the beekeeping. He loves to help us out, so I thought, hey, maybe he'll have an answer or two to help us here. But he unfortunately he doesn't like honey, so he's a weird beekeeper.
Wow.
Well, Uriah, don't feel bad, because truth be told, I'm not a super big fan of honey myself. I like the bees and making queens and all that kind of stuff. But truth be told, honey is that sticky stuff that is all over everything. My wife loves it. She loves to sell it to the homeschoolers and the folks in our community. But Uriah, you know, I think I like you even more now, because I'm not the only goofball who doesn't like honey.
You want to say something?
Well, Uriah and Jake, thanks for spending some time with us tonight. We know you guys are busy. Homestead life is busy. Family life is busy. So we appreciate you taking some time for us out tonight. Jake, for folks who haven't had a chance to get to know Jake from White House on the Hill, can you tell us a little bit about you and your family's journey and how you've shared that on YouTube?
Sure. First of all, is having a toilet in the background distracting? This is my
Only if somebody uses it.
We built this office in the back bathroom of our mobile home, so we're trying to figure it out. Anyways, we started the homestead journey in 2016. We've sold our house in the city, and we moved out to a country farmhouse that we rented for 3-4 years, and we got some chickens, and then that kind of started everything. We got like 6 or 12 chickens, and it quickly became 100 within like a year. And then I started looking on YouTube on how to raise them, and I started finding homestead families that were not only, you know, raising chickens, but they were growing their own food, and they were at home with their families. And that was very attractive to me, because I started having kids then. We had 2 at the time, and I was working a lot of jobs when I was in the city. Was working a full-time job and then a bunch of other part-time jobs, and all throughout the day. And so I really wanted to find a way to be at home more, and then we wanted to be healthier and eat healthier and live healthier. So that's when we got into animals, into homesteading, and even into YouTube, and saw there was an opportunity there. And so 2017 we started our YouTube channel, and I think it was about a year into it when I went to a Missouri Organic conference, and I heard Leo Sharashkin talking about horizontal hives and catching swarm traps. And I didn't know anything about bees or beekeeping, and he got me into it by saying it was free, and it has cost me a ton of money for being a really free hobby. But that got me hooked initially. And then initially we just put up some swarm traps, and it took about a year. And then we started catching a lot of swarms, and now we're catching them left and right. So it's been really fun. But the homesteading thing, it's expanded to where we hatched out a bunch of different things, but most notably were emus, and didn't quite work out at our rental property. And so we ended up having to find our own farm, because emus get pretty big. And so we had to find our own farm, and in 2019 we moved to our own place, and we've been building it. We're building a big aviary in the back to house our peafowl, our mandarin ducks, our red golden pheasants. We built a big horse area, and we just brought home our second horse like a day or two ago, and put a video out about that. And we've got milk cows, and then a bunch of birds. But probably my favorite hobby is beekeeping. And I make the least amount of videos on our channel about it. I probably make 4 or 5 a year about it. But it's my favorite hobby, and I've really gotten into it over the last year, where I've been working with some community bee yards. We just had Rob, I see him in the chat, from Larabi's, came to our farm this last week and showed us how to treat for mites with the instant VAP, and so we've been having a lot of fun getting to know more of the beekeeping community, and to really enjoy that world that we're kind of new to.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to this aspect of the beekeeping community. When you're tied into so many homestead communities and the chickens and the emus and the ducks and all this, there's a whole tribe of people within all of those, and so it's fun to kind of introduce you into this community of folks. You mentioned Rob at Larabi's. They're great friends of ours. They've been in this community for a long time, and it's fun to have all these kind of cross collaborations, and it's not ironic that you kind of bring that up, because to spare you the long story, we did something similar. I got into a bad accident, shouldn't have walked away from. We decided to pack up, move away from the city, get out to a piece of land back in 2014, and raise the kids from the ground up there, doing all of these things that we didn't know how to do. We never knew how to raise pigs. We never knew how to raise cows, let alone how to hand milk cows. We didn't know how to raise bees or make NUCS or make queens or build fence or run a sawmill or chain, all those things that come along with it. We decided to learn right alongside with the kids. And Jake, it seems as though homesteaders are notorious for throwing anything and everything against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
And then whatever sticks, you kind of start putting more time and effort and energy into, and see what that grows, or where those opportunities. For us, it was bees, and the bees were the things that surpassed the milk cows and the meat birds and all the da-da-da-da-da. And so that's what our focus is. But it sounds like, especially, checking in with a couple of your YouTube videos, especially your trailer, it sounds like as you guys got busy sharing your family's journey into homesteading, the actual art of sharing your family's journey of homesteading became the thing that stuck, and where you were able to put a lot of your time and attention to. Could you talk to us a little bit about what that was like when you're throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks? You're looking for opportunities. How can I get off the road? How can I stop working for somebody else? How can I take life into my own hands and be responsible financially for my family's well-being? At some point, you transitioned from somebody writing your check, from you now writing checks and earning income based on your merits. Can you talk to us a little bit about that transition and what that's meant for your family?
So like sharing content, YouTube, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we started it kind of started as a hobby. I wasn't sure if it would become anything. And then I really started becoming obsessed with it the way I am about bees now. I got really obsessed with it for like a year or two, where I learned everything about editing, filming. I didn't have a film or editing background. I had a graphic design background, so I had a little bit of a design interest, but it really didn't help me a ton. I thought I had a good eye for, shooting good video or something, but I really had no idea on how to like create a story arc. And so I had to learn a lot about editing, and I would try to do like a new trick or do something different in each video for our first year, and just try to teach myself as we went. And then we were just filming our day and just putting up a video, and there was no real story to it. And I was wondering why it wasn't catching on. I felt like our editing was good, but it wasn't really gaining a lot of traction for the first like 6-8 months. And it really wasn't that long in the big scheme of things, for how long it really does take to grow on social media. But to me, it felt like, because I was treating it like a full-time job, it felt like it was taking forever to grow, and I didn't know what to do. And so I started talking to some other YouTubers, some bigger channels, some that were my size or just a little bigger. And we started little like counseling groups where we'd all talk together, kind of like the three of you guys. Like we'd get together and just have a chat like every week and talk about our channels, what we saw that was working for us, what we see that's like catching traction on YouTube in general. And so we'd use that as like a way to to pick on trends and things like that to improve our channels. And that really helped. And then starting to collaborate with some other channels that were like our size or a little bigger, that helped. Going to events, there's some homesteading events. Homesteaders of America was just getting started in 2017. We went to the first event of that. And I hear there's some beekeeping events, so I'm excited to learn more and go to some of those in the future. But I got really into like going to different like gardening and homesteading events so we could meet other both like-minded people in the homesteading world, but also some YouTubers would go to those events. And then it was about a year into it, maybe a year and a half, that we had some videos start to take off. And we got like on the Creator on the Rise when they still had that on the trending page on YouTube. And that was fun because our channel started to like blow up. But then at the same time, people found our channel that had no interest in homesteading and just tore us apart. And we quickly had to grow a thick skin where people were like seeing us cut chicken wings and they thought we were hurting the bird, or just so many different things that we got a ton of hate over. And so it made it really tough. I kind of had to shelter my wife from reading the comments because they would just tear us apart. And it's still tough I just put out a horse video today. I'm already worried about reading the comments.
Yeah.
Horse videos are crazy. Bees videos are tough too because I used to be really bad with bees, and I wanted to show my full journey with starting that. And I did a lot of dumb things early on, and that was hard to hear when people would tell me, just the dumb things that I would do, that I didn't know any better because I was just doing it by myself here and just trying to figure it out. And so it's been different for sure. I try to show the good and the bad, and I think that gets me some love for showing it being real, but then also some hate for showing mistakes. And they'll tell me, I'm not like this beekeeper that's perfect, or I'm not like this guy that hatches eggs that's perfect. And so I hear that all the time. So that's always the tough part of the journey. But to go back to like when it took off, yeah, that's when I started. I've always treated it like a full-time job. And so when it became a full-time job about a year and a half in, I just got more serious about how do I make my effort work the most, the biggest bang for your buck. And so that's when I learned really more about storytelling, to work on really a little bit bigger, more involved stories. I was making a lot of videos, and so I tried to go down to one video a week and tell some longer stories, do more hatching videos, things like that. So that was our journey to it. And I wish it was easier. I know it's so hard because I really do root for a lot of people to make it on YouTube. I've tried to coach people, and it really hurts when I see people quit or give up on it when I feel like they're really close to getting through. Because I remember back to when we took off, and it was like a month or two before, and I had like the worst month we'd had that whole year because I was really slowing down how many videos I was making. And so our channel was really suffering because of that. But it was right before it took off. And so I've seen a lot of people that give it a shot and just don't stick with it enough. And I attribute a lot of that to, I know it didn't take that long for us in the big scheme of things, but we had some businesses in the past that, and probably like beekeeping, because beekeeping is a long-term business, where you fail, you lose money for a long time before you make money. And so YouTube is very much like that, or social media, where you put a lot of effort in for a long time before anybody ever sees you or recognizes you. And so that's something you've got to almost do it for yourself. Make videos that you want to watch, that you would enjoy just watching with your family. And if you enjoy it, there's a good chance other people will enjoy it too. And so that was something that we kind of stayed focused on, along with, networking and trying to just figure out how to make it work. And I don't know how to sum up that section well, but it was something where we just weren't going to be denied, I guess. And I think it's there for people can still make it and make it work. Mm-hmm. Just always have to find a way to be creative and be unique in the space.
Jake, do you feel like backing off on the frequency is what kind of helped in the long run with you catching some traction? I know some people try to post videos like every day or 3 times a week, or I know it's a little different with each channel, but what are your thoughts as to what kind of caught the algorithm at that time?
First off, I've got to say I've been watching all of your channels over the past week, and I'm not here to critique or anything. I actually enjoy all your channels. And Bruce, I think I watched one. You had one about putting the honey in the honey straws.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and my wife really wants to do that. So we had a lot of fun watching that. So thanks for making videos like that. Backing off to 1 video a week definitely helped. It's really hard. This week I put 2 out because last week's got kind of delayed, but yeah, I'm more of a put it out when it's done than just put it out to put it out. And so
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I could always say that was the case. I think early on, you know, if I had it to do again, I do see people take off with less videos and really good stories. But I know it can be scary because you put so much time and effort into a video, and if there's no one there to see it, it can be scary to put all that effort in and not reap the rewards of it. I think that there's enough that YouTube now can see and read stats, and I think they push newer creators and they push different aspects to get your videos out there. And obviously I just think of like all these like viral videos that were just really obscure things, how these channels would pop up in my feed, like the guy that had the lobster that he like took home and saved and raised on it at home or something. And then, you know, another one of a guy that told a 21-minute story about how he kept a trespasser off his property with a crayon. Like there's just all these like little weird stories. And it was just him telling his whole story, and it had nothing to do with much, but it was a really good story. And so, yeah, I think you can find your way, find your voice, and find a unique story. You know, sometimes there has to be some drama. Sometimes if you're in more of the educational space, you know, it may be where one video really hits, one just won't find its way because there's so many videos that you've got to compete against. So I know that can be a challenge in the beekeeping world, is that you're going to be competing against similar type videos unless you're somebody that, you know, people just come to hang out with. But yes, for us, 1 video a week, finding our thing. Like initially it was hatching videos were kind of our thing when we started, when we got some traction, and then storytelling, and then title and thumbnail, which I am still not great. I still save the title and thumbnail towards the end. I know some channels that will start with that idea and they'll work their whole video around it. More in the animal bee world, I think a lot of times you're unsure of how the video is going to end. And so you've got to wait to see the result of what you're doing. But if you can think up a really good idea and you can start to think through that title and thumbnail, that's the first thing to get them in. And then having that really good story keeps people around.
What do you think are some keys to telling a really good story? What are the steps that you take or anything? Do you think through the process before, or do you just kind of tell it as it goes along with your videos?
So a lot of times I think of what do I need to get done? So I've got a few different things I'm doing every month. Like here's a hatching project right here that we're working on. And so this one I'm testing out an incubator. It's super secret. Nobody's supposed to see that. And so we're testing out an incubator, and it already kind of had a failure, and now we're trying it again. And so there's going to be a built-in, like a failure. Can we overcome the failure that we had the first time? So with hatching videos, I think there's some built-in drama there, because here's the eggs, here's the incubator, or here's the hen that's hatching them out or whatever. And then here, you know, the story as we wait for 21 days or 28 days or whatever. And then they as they hatch, are there any issues as they hatch? And then what's the end result? And so there's kind of this story arc that it's a simple thing for me to understand. And then with a normal video, okay, so we just did one like with our horses. And when I started it, it wasn't that big of a deal. We were going to get a new horse, and he was really nice when we first got him, and then he started getting really spooked and really crazy, and we started to see that there was more to the story than we were being told by the guy that we were testing out the horse from. And so I was filming it initially, not really thinking there was going to be a video there, and then it started to get crazier and crazier as we went on. So that one turned into a wilder story than I expected, and that happens with a lot of the earlier beekeeping videos when I didn't know the result. There's a lot more, I'd say there's a lot more that I understand and I expect now from beekeeping. And the earlier videos, I was more surprised by everything that happened because I didn't know what would happen. That our biggest videos, we killed a queen to save the hive, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand genetics in hives. I didn't understand aggression, and I just happened to have a queen bee company reach out to me, and they told me, they saw a previous video where the hive looked really aggressive and said I should requeen, and so they kind of coached me through it. And then it just got a little crazier as that hive was really aggressive, and I opened my suit up and got stung all over the place, and so a lot of lessons to be learned from that one. But so I guess I'd say sometimes it's dumb luck, I guess, can sometimes happen when you don't know. But I'd say that I usually go in with, I have an idea of what I want to accomplish, and it's not that I need something dramatic to happen, but I have a goal of what I need to accomplish, and then I work on that for the week or a couple weeks, and then I try to film everything. And sometimes it doesn't work out great. I hatched out something just the other day, and it wasn't like anything exciting hatched out really that happened. And so I'm like, you know what, there's not much of a story with that one. So sometimes I just got to wait for the right story to happen if I have a few things going on at the same time, and we have the aviary to work on. And so there's a few different projects that we can go around to try to pick different stories from time to time. But that's what I'm looking for, is what do I need to accomplish? And then what's the story or interesting thing that I'm doing that's part of this? If it's a boring fence build or something, then a lot of times it won't make, I'll just show it as like some little B-roll or something somewhere in the video, and I'll just save that for just to show that we're working on other things, and I'll save like the more interesting story for the video.
When it comes to your bees, what are you trying to achieve with your bees? Is it mostly just for honey for your family, or are you trying to grow the business in the bees, or what are you looking at with the bees?
So my goal has been to produce enough honey to where I have more left over than our viewers want. And so starting like 3 years ago, we started selling honey to our viewers. And I don't produce very much because I've been dealing with a lot of first-year hives for the first few years, where I would lose the bees and I couldn't really grow them. And I was taking too much honey. Now, last year was great. We didn't take very much honey, and so we had a really good. We started treating more, and so we had I think, a pretty good winter of getting a lot of hives to make it through the winter. This year, with an earlier start to the season, and actually understanding splits, catching more swarms. I feel like I'm painting hives like every day right now, but my goal is to produce enough honey for the viewers, because every year we don't produce very much. We sell out, and then I get messages for months of like, when are you going to have more? We want some. And so that's my initial goal, is to produce enough to fill that need. And then, then I would love to have more that I can bathe in it, and I can do whatever I want with the honey. But so far that's my only focus, is like, how can I just produce more honey so they're happy? And then I can start to figure out, I guess, my bigger goals after that.
That's similar. Like my whole beekeeping journey, I started, this is my 8th season. And I started out, and I was more or less, I was like you. I had a very difficult time finding a mentor. So I pretty much did everything on my own, and I made some disastrous mistakes. And Greg knows.
Uh,
And you know, originally I started filming my content. Just I had a couple family members that were saying, "Hey, oh, that's cool, you're getting bees. You know, can you film it?" I said, "Sure." And I had no even like thought of YouTube. I was going to put them on. A couple people in the family were asking if they could just view the video. I was going to just throw these massive files on Dropbox or something and let them download it and watch it. And my brother said, throw them on YouTube, and you know, it'd be easy for really anyone to watch them. So I've always maintained, like through my time on YouTube, I've always maintained 100% transparency. And like you, I want to show everything that I do, because when I do mess up, and I do all the time, if I could help one person not to make that same mistake, then for me, that's a win. But like I really changed up my beekeeping kind of strategy. It's been, I think, 4 years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago. And over a winter, I lost every colony I had.
Mm.
And I showed it. I went out, and it was a warmer day, and I think it was like a February or something. I'm in Northeast Ohio, so a little bit south of Lake Erie. And I went out and checked a hive, dead. Checked another one, dead. Checked another one, dead. And I was just like, "You got to be kidding me," you know. And I'm sitting there scratching my head, like, I spent all this time, and you know. So I took that moment though, and I kind of stepped back and just developed a new strategy. And I found, you know, that one up over there, I found Greg, and I ordered packages from him, have learned a ton from him. And now here I am. And like years ago, my wife was similar like yours. You know, she would always say, "You're spending all this time with these bees. Where's the honey?"
Mm.
And 2 years ago now was when I got a little bit of a larger harvest, and I came walking in the door, I remember, and I had 2 5-gallon buckets, and I had more in the car. And she said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's honey." And I said, you said you wanted honey. And she said, "Well, I didn't mean buckets of it." And it
that's
just,
great.
it got to the point that, you know, I used all of those failures to kind of develop this new strategy, and it's worked. I started last year, I had so much that, you know, I had a number of buckets just sitting in the basement, and I'm looking at it like word of mouth just isn't going to cut it anymore. So I started doing some markets just to sell it off. But you'll get there, and when your strategies all fall into place, and you start walking in the door with those 5-gallon buckets, it's it's I love it though. You know, me, I like honey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very rewarding though. I mean, just seeing the colonies. Now I've had
Honey.
still had some ups and downs and things like that, but
I think
yeah,
I think Uriah might like you know, selling some nukes or some queens off and making some real cash without getting sticky. Maybe he'll fall
We've-
into that.
Hey, do you guys have any advice for, because we're kind of thinking about that, like how can we give him some responsibility, like give him some hives of his own?
Yep.
That he could do something like that with? Have you guys ever seen or done anything like that?
Yep, right. That's what we're doing right now with our kids. We have 7 kids. Half of them were born here at home, and what we found is, you know, they are elbows deep in the family business here
Okay.
of selling bees and supplies and wax tipped equipment. They're in the midst of all of that, and they understand. I think it's what's really important, Jake, and I think you appreciate and understand this, and I know Uriah would probably does already appreciate this, but to be able to bring the kids into the business in a way that they get it, they understand, they feel invested, but more importantly, they understand that I am rewarded by the work and my output from an early age. As they're little, you know, that might be this or that, but as they get older, they start to appreciate having capital or having cash or whatever that the reward is. when they see that the business is doing well and they're a part of it, they want to find ways that they can also bring value in their own unique way into the business. What we've done in years past, but specifically this year, is every kid has their own colony. And yes, we guide them. They've been in the yards with us for years. They understand some of the basics. They're all at different levels. Our oldest is 21, and our youngest are twins at going on 9. It's a little bit different. They all have a different understanding, but they all get that if I work hard, then I'm rewarded. And so each kid has at least one of their own colonies that they're responsible for. You know, they're excited to get in there. They want to check. They want to make sure that they're adding frames, they're adding boxes, they're checking in on the health. They're doing mite washes. Do we need to do any kind of a treatment? Can we just stack boxes? What are they looking like? Because they understand if they invest in their colony, they are more importantly, they are investing in an asset. Using words like invest and asset and return on your investment, kids don't get that, but they understand if I work hard and I keep these bees alive and they get big, they make honey. I bottle the honey, everybody wants to buy it. If I do well and keep my colony alive and keep them healthy, next year they're twice as big and we have 2 to 4 times as much honey, which means more money in my pocket. So kids are like, I wish, you know, we come into self-employment or entrepreneurship differently, but Jake, bringing your children into it is one of the most beautiful things that you can do, and they can learn. That Uriah may find, hey, I don't want nothing to do with honey, but I sort of like being able to take a colony that I've raised, that I know all the details about it, and now I split it out and I learn how to make queens and I sell NUCS for $200 or $250. And all I did was split a healthy colony, and I do that twice out of each colony. There's an extra $500 or 200, whatever that it might be. Some of our kids are into they want to help rear queens. They want to make some want to make honey. Some want to work building and selling equipment, and some want to find ways that they can use money and invest in a part of the business to grow it, to create a yield on that later. Every one of them is different. But Jake, I think taking the time to figure out where all of the kids are, what speaks to them, and then giving them opportunities to have ownership of something and then support them in a way that they can be successful, I think is a real big deal.
Yeah, that sounds great. I took him and our older one, Eli, out to a beekeeping class when we first met this community bee yard about an hour away last year. And it's been really fun since then, because now they go out and then they can identify, worker cells and drone cells, and they help me find the queens. And so it's just been a lot of fun now that they are learning right along with me. And that'll be fun to do something like that, to find something for him to get really excited about, because he loves going out with me. And I don't know if it's just if he enjoys the beekeeping part of it, or if it's like it's one-on-one time away from everybody else. But I definitely enjoy having you out there. Brian,
Uriah,
I wanted to ask,
what do you enjoy, Uriah? What do you enjoy the most on the homestead?
you help us. Let's see. We just moved some chicks out today that hatched. So sometimes chickens hatch. We do some chores with the birds. Do you like any of the birds or the cows, or?
I like mostly doing the ducks.
The ducks? Oh, he does the at night. He puts the ducks in. So the ducks are real bad about going in, and so he's got to chase them around their house until they go in. And so he does an outstanding job getting them in, because my wife hates the ducks more than just about anything on the farm because of how much mud they create.
Yeah.
So they're alive because of some family members really like the ducks, but otherwise I don't think they'd be here.
What's the secret, Uriah? I like right now when we get done tonight, I've got to go out. I got to jump across the electric poultry netting, and I have to somehow convince all these ducks who would rather sit out in the mud or make mud and just sit there as coon bait. They would rather just sit there as something else's dinner tonight They no matter what I do, they don't just want to go home for the night with the chickens. Uriah, do you have any tips for all of us duck ranchers? What can we do to do a better job of making sure that our ducks go home and get closed up for the night? Do you have any hot tips for us?
No.
How do you get them in? How do you get them in?
I mostly just run around the house. Like,
They have a house inside an electric fence. He just runs around it until they finally get tired, and then they go in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry, I'm supposed to let him tell that. That's my fault.
one or two times.
Two times, yeah.
Takes 2 times. Which way? Do you have to go clockwise or counterclockwise, or does it change on the time of year?
Can you go either way?
Yeah.
You can probably go either way. Yeah.
Either way. Okay. Well, Uriah, I know who to call when I get into duck trouble. I'll get a hold of your dad and see if you can help us out there. Actually, ducks are one of my favorite. I love their attitude. I love their demeanor for the most part, but they just make a muddy mess of everything so quick. But we used to really love having ducks when we had a smaller bee yard, when it was less than 100 colonies and we could do it. We would try to run the goats or the chickens or the ducks through there for pest control. And one of my favorite things was to have the ducks kind of cruising around with their bill. You know what they do? They go around and they're kind of digging in this and digging in that. But they kept under the hive stands really nice. They would eat any dead bees that would kind of fall out.
Oh, interesting.
And it also seemed as though things like hive beetles and things that were growing in the soil, the ducks did a really good job of kind of rooting up and eating. The chickens would kind of come in, but the chickens were they're a little bit lazier. If it's not like right there in front of them and they can just boom, get it and go, they're like, I'll just move on. But the ducks, they work a little harder. They want to get in there and sift around and see what's there. And I love hearing the quack. And we had these, Uriah, we had these ducks at one point in time called Muscovy ducks. And they were really cool. They would bob when they would walk. They were these cool dudes. They would their head would bob, and they wouldn't make a lot of noise. They would but they could fly, and they could fly in a big way. And we couldn't keep them inside of any kind of poultry netting. And they would actually, as a duck, they would even like roost up 10 and 12 feet up in the air. So they were on their own, and they made it a really long time. But I love ducks a lot. Uriah, I'm going to have to call your dad for any hot tips in the future.
Greg is.
Oh no!
Excited.
We're about to have a visitor. No. Uh-oh. We're about to have a naked girl on here.
Good catch, Dad. Oh, that's
pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Greg is going to be super excited because here very soon, I would say probably in the next month, he's going to have a nice sized batch of quail eggs.
Oh, stop it. You're going to get me in so much trouble.
That he's going to incubate and hatch out.
Oh, my gosh. Look, sometimes it's Susie, my wife, and we got into bees years ago because it was her idea. We were driving past the farm, and she said, you know what we need? And I said, what? And she said, bees. And I said, okay, sounds good. It was the same thing with the sawmill. She set me up on the sawmill. She said, you know what you really need is a sawmill. And I'm thinking, okay, great. And then we get it, we arrive, and of course it's like a budget sawmill. It's like a Wood-Mizer 55. So you got to put the whole thing together, right? It's still awesome. It works great. I no sooner get it put together, and I'm thinking all the cool things that I can do. And she says, you know what you could build with that? And I said, uh-oh, here it comes. What? Because, well, you could build me a little dairy barn. Well, she had 2 jerseys that were getting ready to calf, and no kidding, we busted hump and got that thing built just in time for the calves. So most of the time, whenever she says this something's a good idea, it is. But when except for goats, let's bring them home goats and put them in the berry patch real quick at nighttime because it's fenced in and we'll keep the goats safe. And then you wake up and you've got 30 blueberries and aronias and everything else that are completely mowed down to the ground. But when it comes to birds, Brian's going to get me in trouble because Brian keeps doing this thing where it's like, you know what you really need? You need 50 or 60 quail eggs to hatch out because that's exactly what you – and Brian, all I'm saying, buddy, is if you bring over eggs to hatch, you better be good at cooking and cleaning because I'm going to need a new farm to live at. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Now my wife and I, we looked at getting some type of bird. That way we would have eggs and we would have the meat source. And she didn't want to get chickens. Just she didn't want to free range them, and they basically get into everything, tearing up the flower beds and everything like that. So I even forget where I saw quail, but last year we started with some quail. I got eggs online and hatched them out, and we've got 3 cages, and I think we've got 36 or so from last year, and I'm going to cycle some of those out. I've already done a batch and I think there's 37 2-week-olds in a brooder now, so, and want to do more. And Greg, I can just see him with quail though.
No.
Well, I
No,
love
you
quail.
can't.
Are, at least for me, quail are such an easy bird
They
to
are.
it's just there's not a lot of work that you have to put into them, and I love just sitting there listening to them though too. That's what always gets me about those things. So, but yeah,
I'm
I
sure
enjoy.
Jake can appreciate this dichotomy of homesteaditis, where typically it's us males who, it all starts with, huh, what would be cool, and then it goes from there, and then it's, like for you guys, it's emus and ducks and chickens, and for us
Yeah.
it was milk cows and rabbits and our own breeding line of rabbits, and then all these things after another, and eventually you get to the point where you're like, man, that would be cool, but is this going to be like the last thing that I tried to do? And it end up having a lot of, I don't want to say mistakes or failures, but boy, there were an awful lot of learning opportunities with that last idea. And Jake, beekeeping falls into that category because beekeeping is one of the things that has this element of danger, but it has this really romantic element to it that a lot of folks think, wow, wouldn't that be cool? And they see a lot of the really hip maybe YouTube channels, or they see a lot of the really hip things that they think this is what the experience is going to be like. And when homesteaders get involved with beekeeping, like us, I'm speaking from my own experience, you dive in. Homesteaders typically you're all in, and you're going to make this thing work. And a lot of times, ego and pride gets in the way. But we are going to do this, and we've told everyone we're going to do this. And here's a video of us going to do it. We've got to see this thing all the way through. And then things start to happen, and you start to realize, I thought these bees were supposed to be able to make it on their own, or I thought when I catch swarms, they're going to be clean, healthy bees and never, ever have any problems. But I thought bees have been doing this on their own for all these years. Why are these bees not making it? Why do they look like this? And then you realize that you hear a lot of things, you read a lot of things, you watch a lot of things on YouTube. While it may be somebody else's truth, or maybe they're pitching it as it's though a truth, but you realize that by and large, everybody's experience on the homestead and farm is not only different to their locality, but it's different in context. And what a lot of us have found, Jake, the hard way, is that while we wanted to be treatment free, and why we wanted to let the bees draw all the comb, and why we thought they had all these things figured out, it was based on a limited understanding historically of how bees got here, what they are actually what their challenges are, what they're faced against, and the things that are a challenge for them, where they came from. It becomes this big ball of worms where now you're invested as a homesteader. You got all these things going, and now the bees aren't doing well. They don't quite look right. They're not making it through the winter. You've done all the things. You've caught all the swarms. You've bought all the treatment-free bees, and it's just not going well. And at some point, your wife looks at you and says, I love that you love bees. I love that you're pretty good at making split and making queens, but we cannot continue to spend money on bees if you cannot keep them alive. And it was my wife saying this, and she said, you have got to treat these bees. You need to treat these bees. It doesn't matter if they come from the neighbor's barn or the tree. They're sick. They need treated. It's your responsibility. So either treat them and treat them like livestock and be a good husband of these animals, or stop. And that truth hurts. And I had to suck it up. And she was right. I had to do it. And when I started doing that, my wife was right. I started listening to it. to her, the bees started turning corner, and there were more bees all over the place. Jake, how has your beekeeping experience been for you, and the learning curve sometimes with things like beekeeping?
Yeah, it took a while, and I had a good chat with Rob from Robbie's, where he said I think the average person lasts about 3 years in beekeeping. Got Darth Vader back here. This is Isaiah. He also sometimes comes out and helps us with the bees, but he always has to come, but he lasts about 5 minutes, and then he ends up laying on the ground, and then he just rolls around in his suit, and then he drinks all our water, and then he asks when we're going back to the house.
Nice.
That's great.
Gosh, yeah. Oh, so he said the average person lasts about 3 years in bees, something like that. And I can understand it. I think if I hadn't been so, I don't know. I just didn't want to quit it. There's some things that I've quit on our channel, and that was one I definitely didn't want to quit. And I wanted to figure it out. And I was just going to keep buying more year after year. And I think I finally had enough of like, let's go. I like watching YouTube videos is not enough. And Isaiah, that's enough. That's enough.
He's fine.
Watching videos wasn't filling the gaps for me to figure out what I was doing wrong. And so I finally started finding like the Missouri Beekeeper group. We're in Missouri, and finding some local groups to us. And I found one that was like a little further away, and now I'm starting to find more guys even closer. And so that's really helping, finding some mentors when I really need to ask a question. Some local friends that I just got some queens from a guy that I hadn't met before that was local to me. So making friends. So that's really helped to make it, I guess, to humble myself, to finally ask for help, because I just kept trying to do what you said. Like, I feel like, I'm seeing videos about treatment-free stuff. It should be natural. And I said, there's got to be something wrong here. And then just buying so many bees, I was like, I can't just keep buying bees over and over again. There's got to be a way to figure this out. And I don't want to just keep getting swarms and having them die or leave. So I think I just finally got frustrated enough in year 4 that I wanted to start figuring it out. And so last year was a big turn for us. And then now it's where I'm building. Every day, the post office is dropping off more boxes of hives for me to build and to paint, because we've been splitting and catching swarms, and I'm putting out more swarm traps because they just keep catching swarms. And my wife's starting to say, hey, how many hives are you going to have? And I think it's kind of whatever. It's taken my time away from her horse dream. And then I also need to spend time. I need to finish our aviaries, our other big goal that we're working on. So I think she loves that I love it, but then at the same time she's like, hey, where's like the ceiling on this?
Balance. Yeah, where's the balance with everything else too? Yeah, that's the hard part, is finding the balance for all the things that you want to do, or sometimes on the homestead you have to do. If people have deposits on hogs, or you've got a herd share, or you've got NUCS going out, or whatever the thing is, if you have a livestock or an agricultural product leaving the farm, like there's certain things that we have to get done, and then there's all the things that we want to do, and then we have to find the balance. Like, well, my wife, she has been robbed of the gardening joy the last couple years because she's been all hands on deck. She's digging in and she's helping us rear the queens and make the NUCS and feed the bees and get everybody split and get the order shipped and do all these things. But now I got to find some balance where we make sure that we get her garden life back in order, and we provide those opportunities for her, because that's fulfilling. I love being out in a box and making splits and filling and feeling that, oh my gosh, we're creating abundance right here from nature, right here from these bees. She loves to do the same thing with her plants and her garden and their perennials and things like that. We got to find balance as a family on the homestead, and that can be really challenging to kind of do that. But that seems to be the name of the game. There's so many things that we want to do. When we want to do them all at the same time, we all want to do them right now. And sometimes we get, some folks get into a hurry to get into beekeeping, and they'll buy the bees, they'll even buy some of the equipment, and then it's go time, and then they don't know what to do. They buy a nuke of bees from us, and they install 6 boxes all at one time and say, hey, we're good. And they can, whoa, back up. What are some of the hard lessons learned that you have had with incorporating beekeeping into your homestead?
I don't know. I guess because like this week I've had a couple videos to put out, and I keep wanting. I know there's things that I need to do out there, and so it's tough sometimes. Where like I know if there's a day that has free time, then I better go out there, because there's going to become a day when I'm not going to be able to get out there and check on some hives that should be getting their queens coming back from mating flights, and I've got a swarm that needs a box, and finally some of the equipment came in, so I can get them out in one tomorrow. And basically I plan for the free days to make sure I have the equipment. I go out late at night and I'll paint. We've had a lot of rain lately, so it's been kind of hard to get stuff prepared, but I'll work it like in our garage and at least get the boxes ready, and then I'll paint on the nice days. So yeah, it's using the free days to get as much work done out there, even if I don't think there's much to do, because I better be prepared for the days when I can't get out there. And there's more going on this year than previous year, so it's just with the bees specifically. And so that's where I'm trying to figure out, well, I guess, how do you guys do it with multiply that out times, if I've got like 17 hives right now and trying to get to 20, how do you get to 40 or 80 or 100 plus? Like, how do you time manage that? Because 20's taking a lot of time.
You ask a question of which there is no answer, but what I can say is the brief, the time management is definitely one of the things that it's all going to be a little different based on scale and context. We can probably help you and your wife out both to I don't know that you're going to achieve.
Oh, you've got another horse? You've got another horse for it?
I was gonna say, I don't have a horse, and I don't know that I've got the fortune cookie saying for marital bliss, but maybe we can send you our already assembled wax tip boxes. Be one less thing you have to do. They're ready to go out in the field. But Brian pretends he's going to keep his number of colonies under 20.
Yeah.
And he's primarily running, for honey and the enjoyment, and it creates a lot of great content for his YouTube channel. Bruce runs between, 1 to 200 colonies, primarily focused on honey and honey products. And so that is its own set of time management and challenges. Us with the beekeeping supplies and 7 kids and the chickens and the ducks and the cats and the business side of it, when we run, anywhere between 200 and 400 colonies, the wheels start to fall off the bus quick when they do, and you start to figure out, okay, we can't do all the things. We definitely can't do all the things well. What are the things that we really want to be excellent in, and where are the things that we can compromise and just say, okay is good enough, but we want to be excellent in these other things? What I found in the homestead is you can't do everything well. And as you would appreciate, Joel Salatin probably says it best, is that perfect is the enemy of good. We can't be perfect in all the things. So what are you willing to compromise on? And sometimes that might be, 30%, 40%, 50% of your colonies, they might have needed your attention 2 weeks ago. And when you get there 2 weeks from now, once you realize that you were 2 weeks late, you've already found out that half of them have already swarmed. They've already hit the trees, and you're going to pay one way or the other. For us, it's probably the same as you guys. It's the basics. People always ask us, how do you guys manage all those things? And it's really simple, but it's extremely hard. Number one, is there a human life in jeopardy today? If there is, what do we need to do to prevent that? Second, Is there an animal life in jeopardy on the farm today? If there is, then let's go do that. And then thirdly, if we've made it through 1 and 2, is there plant life on the farm today that is in jeopardy? And sometimes we are constantly in the game of jeopardy where we're finding out, is it human, animal, plant, human, animal, plant? And then sometimes you skate by and all those things, we're good. And then you start going into, as Bruce would say, intentional beekeeping, where we're trying to get out ahead of those things. We're trying to, okay, that next paddock for the cows, let's go ahead and throw the step-ins. Let's get the poly wire out. Let's get out ahead so when we're ready to move, we can. Or with the bees, let's go through, check for queen cells. Let's add a box. Let's get all the preventative steps done. And that is really hard to do. And the more you grow, the worse it gets. But Jake, one of the interesting things about beekeeping, actually, it's like pigs or anything else. The scale will determine itself based on your time and your abilities. And whenever your time and ability is out of balance, the scale humbles you quickly. Either you lose your bees, or the pigs have gone hungry, or it's a rooted up mud mess, or the cows, her bones are showing. There's nothing left and she's not giving milk. Like the scale finds itself. That's the uncomfortable truth. But Bruce, what advice would you have for Jake as he grows his apiary? Some things for as far as time management goes.
Well, I've learned a lot of things the hard way because I'm kind of like a racehorse. I can't stand to do the tortoise wins the race thing. I want to be going full speed all the time. And I do work full time. I work in a hospital. I work 4 10-hour days. So I usually have Fridays and Saturdays to do everything else I need to do. And then I try to take Sundays off if I can, unless it's an ox in the mire situation or something like that. But what I found is, I've grown up to 140, 150 colonies, and I always end up with about 100. So I think the key, though, if I had it to do all over again, and I'm getting better at this, is to start off with, if your goal is 20, I think set a goal that you can achieve this year, something that you want to try to achieve and become efficient, almost like what you said you did last year. You were tired of losing bees, so you decided, I'm going to figure this thing out. I'm going to do the steps it takes to understand treatments, feeding, and how to keep bees alive. So you're doing those things right now. You're learning as a fairly new beekeeper and now a determined beekeeper. As Greg mentioned, we use the term intentional beekeeping. You're learning how to be more intentional. And as you get to where you can keep 15, 20 colonies alive, you maybe even overwinter 12 or 15 colonies, and they come out strong, then you can split those colonies and kind of double your numbers. And the next year, work on doing the same things again. And as you become more adept or you understand the bees better, you'll become more skilled and more efficient. Mm-hmm. And then get to where you can keep 25 colonies alive for a year or two, and you feel comfortable with it, you feel good at it. And it comes to the point to where the actual splitting of the bees and doing the things becomes, I want to say, fairly easy, but then it's just a matter of balancing time, work, and becoming super efficient. And that's something I'm getting better at. I've always had some good mentors. The person that sold me my first bees was a great mentor. And now I've got some guys that are larger scale, kind of like Greg, but I've got a local guy here who's a young guy that's doing it full-time commercial now. And I asked him, because he worked full-time up until about a year ago, I'm like, Tyler, how do you keep 1,500 colonies and still work? And he says you have to be efficient. But he has a plan. He has an intention. He's learned how to become a pretty good beekeeper. So the key is to develop your skills, just like anything else you're doing on the farm, the things you're most comfortable with. As you become more skilled and more efficient, then you can handle more beehives. And I've done this the whole time I've been in beekeeping. Even though I grew really fast, I've always tried to stay ahead of the game as far as money goes. Like I paid a little bit of money for the first couple of colonies, and then I tried some kind of a website thing with a friend and spent a couple $1,000s on that. But beyond that, I've always stayed ahead. I've always been in the black financially. And so I've gradually grown. Also, as you build comb over time, you get more comb. And so that's like gold. The next year you can put it back on the hives. You can use it for brood if you've had some dead outs, or you can use it for honey supers. You store that every year and you become more and more efficient. And before you know it, you'll have the 30 or 40 colonies or whatever you want to do that you can keep alive. But like Greg said, and Ian Stepper talks about this, he's got what he calls the 10-day rule. You'll have as many bees as you can keep alive, and that number will grow over time. But if you try to overextend, you'll end up right back where you can really keep them alive. And so that's not a negative thing. It's just kind of a fact. And what I found is I kept getting humbled over and over every year. Even last year, I lost a lot of colonies, but now I'm starting to like at the beginning of this year, I really grew last year. I thought I had some things figured out here on the stream team, the beekeeping community. We're locked in. We're tied into a lot of people. I'm like, I know what's going on now. So I tried some things late last year that might work in Ohio up north where it's not as hot and humid in the summertime, or the season's a little bit later. I tried some things in July and August here that just devastated some of my, my situation here. It doesn't work here. I couldn't get it to work properly. So I kind of have decided to kind of retract back a little bit and go back to basics. And then I talked to the guy down here locally, the commercial guy I was telling you about, and he said, he told me some principles about being efficient with splits and how to grow efficiently. Go ahead and feed your bees. Go ahead and do certain things. And I've been trying to kind of follow his blueprint a little bit. And this year, so far, we've had a good year as well with the flows, but it's worked out well for me. But it sounds like you're on your way, man. You just got to kind of, and the thing about it too, Greg, like you mentioned, Jake, that equipment just keeps coming in the mail. I mean, because the bees do grow, they multiply. So that's another thing you got to be careful about. Because if you're not careful, you'll end up with double the bees you wanted to have because they do multiply and grow.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned. Brian, what about you? What are some things you've learned to stay within the scale algorithm without getting humbled financially too hard?
I've learned, and what's always kept me in the like number range as far as colonies that I have, it's because every week I only have X number of hours that I can dedicate to the bees. So if I expand out the time that I can spend with each colony, if you look at that pie, it's just, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So for me, the most, I think last year I got up to 21 colonies. I couldn't properly manage them. I didn't have enough time, between the regular job and just, everything around the house. I got so behind on things that, I gave a colony to a cousin. I sold 2 others off to, a guy really cheap. I started getting rid of colonies just because I needed to get down to a number that's comfortable for me. I've found that my comfort zone is around 15. And what helped me, like where I had below 10 colonies, when you have 4 or 6 or 8 colonies, it's not that difficult to go out and you can spend a half an hour in one colony. You can enjoy the beekeeping. You enjoy that end of beekeeping. You can sit, you look at the entrance, you just watch them. And that's what I like. I like having that relationship with them. That's why I'll probably never get to the level of where Bruce is or Greg is, just because I like that more of that intimate relationship with the bees. But I learned that.
You mean smart scale?
Exactly. I learned that what helped me is, and when I went into double digits as far as number of colonies, if I look back several years ago, I had 8 frame, 10 frame, 7 frame. I had all these different setups. I had 3 or 4 different style feeders. And it's just, I would see something at the store. Oh, that's a feeder. I would buy it. I didn't have there was no uniformity throughout my apiary. And over the last, I'd say 2 years, I'm only a little over 2 hours away from Greg. So when I go down to his place, I'll pick up a couple boxes. I'll pick up a bottom board. I'll pick up some feeders. And I've been over the last 2 years gradually transitioning everything so that it's standard throughout the yard. Yep. And now, having even I use bucket feeders, and I'm more moving towards all 10 frame equipment. Where that's helped out is when I put my feeders on, I simply just grab buckets. I don't have to worry about, let me grab those feeders and grab this and grab that. When it gets to the point where I'm adding honey supers on, I don't have to. Before, I used to have to take a notepad and walk out and say, all right, how many 8 frame, how many 10 frame, how many this and that, whatever. Now, when I had supers, I just grabbed boxes. So keeping everything uniform really helped out me, just efficiency wise. It freed up a lot of that time where I was spending doing tasks that it was just a waste of time. So that's one thing that I would say might help out. Now you might have things uniform throughout your apiary already, but that's one thing that at least helped me. And then I was able to dial in on certain tasks and other processes.
I think a lot of these things, Jake, is probably what you've already learned with the emu or all the different things. It's one thing to learn to create the beast and the apiary. And I think it's cool that you've got an aviary and an apiary, because sometimes when we say apiary, people say, "Oh, you raise birds?" And I'm thinking, no, not that. I think it's aviary. So I think you're the first aviary and apiary at the same time. But with all the things on the homestead, it's one thing to learn how to create the beast. You learn, and Uriah may find out really quick, man, I love taking a colony and splitting it 4 ways and making this much money, and that is really cool. That may speak to Uriah, and some of your other kids, they might like certain. It's one thing to learn how to create the beast. It's one thing altogether to learn how to maintain the beast. Creating it, making the splits, going from 20. If you have 20 colonies right now, and they're in single deeps or a story and a half, a 10 frame deep and a super, there's no reason why you can't go from 20 to 60 or 70 like that right now this year. However, maintaining that many is a different story altogether. And that's typically where a lot of us stumble and fall. We're in such a hurry and so hungry to grow that part of the business or that opportunity, that experience, that we figured out, hey, we can make a split, we can use a queen cell, we can buy queens, we can do all these different things. But how do we maintain all those things? Now you've got all this money and time and hope invested in this part of the journey, but you haven't learned how to maintain it yet. That's typically where the scale comes in and humbles us and says, not so quick, not so fast. That's cool, you can do all that, but you can't take care of it. And now it's suffering, and now it's losing, and now your wife's telling you again, you got to keep these bees alive or you can't have them. And that's like, my wife was right. But Jake, what are some, we're getting on about an hour and a half here. We don't want to keep you. I know you're busy tonight. What are some new things coming up? Where can folks find more things about White House on the Hill YouTube channel?
We post videos every week. We just posted one today about our horses, one earlier this week about our emus, and next week there'll be one about our bees. So we kind of rotate through some different topics on our channel. We'll do, I do beekeeping all the time. I post a lot more on our stories on Instagram and Facebook, and then more in shorts. I'll post a lot more bee stuff in there because I've got a lot of little stories that I'll tell with our like catching swarms. There's a lot of shorter stories on there, so we'll do those more in short form typically. But if I've got a longer project I'm working on, then it'll go on the main channel on YouTube. So that's on YouTube is our newest stuff, our latest videos, and then we'll post on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Facebook has a lot of our older stories that get posted on there. So that's where we're at. And then we'll have honey up here in a few months, and I'm going to do my best to produce as much as I can this year. So we sell eggs and honey. We do that through our website.
And what's your website?
WhiteHouseOnTheHill.com.
WhiteHouseOnTheHill.com. Uriah, before you turn loose for the night, do you have any good advice for anybody who's thinking about starting a homestead? What would you tell somebody?
Oh, we ask him all the time, are you going to do this someday? Is that because we took a trip a couple years ago to pick up 2 emus in the mountains of Colorado. And so after we went there, then he kept saying, I want to move to Colorado because I love it out there. Mm-hmm. So where do you want to live someday?
Colorado.
You still want to live in Colorado? Or what kind of animals are you going to have? Ostrich? No.
Emu.
You're gonna have emus? You can talk to them. They're right there.
Emu.
Emus.
Probably.
You have chickens and ducks.
Yeah.
You can have a garden. You help mom with the garden. You can talk. You can talk to them.
Yeah, I have a garden, and that would be
That'll be it. So you got to do the chores. You and Eli do the night chores. He probably has to go out and close up his coops and pick up the eggs here in a minute.
Yeah.
Are you going to have? Do you think people should do what we do? That they should have animals and grow food? Do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, it's worth it.
Nice.
Or
There
should
it
they
is.
just have a lot of kids? Should they just have a lot of kids so they'll do all the work for them? I don't know. I'm joking.
Undecided. And that's the fun thing about being a kid and raising it. I think I see it too. I don't know that all the kids appreciate the opportunities of the life they're living right this minute, but I do enjoy the proverb and respect it, where you train a child up in the way that they should go, and when they grow old, they won't depart from it. So I think what Jake, what you and your wife are doing are instilling not just the basics, how to grow food, how to raise animals, but you're instilling not just the morals, but the integrity and the type of people that are going to carry the torch that we all need out as the next generation. So hats off to Jake, you and your wife for raising a family on the homestead. Absolutely think that that's awesome. Uriah, if you ever get in a tight spot and you say, hey, I don't know what to do with my bees, just remind your dad that there's a great group of folks that are willing to help. Just say the word. Jake, as we cut loose here, I want to thank you for spending time with us tonight. We're looking forward to following you along on the White House on the Hill YouTube channel. Folks, be sure to check out their YouTube channel, all the socials, and go buy some honey from them this year. Let's get them sold out right away. WhitehouseOnTheHill.com, and hopefully we can help you keep healthier bees. Rob Pollock was just out there from the Robbies. Great guy. I know he can teach you a lot too, but we really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight.
Thanks a lot for having us, guys. We had a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it, and looking forward to making more friends in the bee world. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey Jake, just know you're part of this community now. We appreciate you. We'd love to have you on board here, and any questions you have, you can reach out to any of us or anyone in the comments here. You know, the beekeeping community, as I'm sure it is with homesteading, is a great community, a lot of great people, and we've just met some of the coolest people doing this stream team thing. And just, Greg always says the bees are the conduit to the people. And that's true. And that's, it's just phenomenal having you on, and welcome aboard to the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Jake,
sir.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely have to schedule another one.
Absolutely.
And Brian's the guy that made it all happen. So thank you,
Brian. Thanks for making it happen.
Yeah, not a problem.
Absolutely.
Hey, Jake, stick around for 1 minute when we end it. Don't drop off.
Okay.
Okay.
Uriah, good luck with the ducks tonight. I hope they only go around the loop twice and then go in their hut for the night. All right. Well, hey, folks, we want to thank you for spending time with us here in the comments. If you were watching the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat live on the Nature's Image Farm YouTube channel, or if you're listening later on the Nature's Image Farm podcast, we love you. We appreciate you. Thanks for your support. And as always, we want to remind you to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.